Hi everyone, and welcome to another Marvelous video. In today's video, we'll be talking about one of the most viewed Netflix shows to date, Love, Death, and Robots. Created by Tim Miller, the episodes are adapted from various short stories and mostly written by Philip Gelatt. The show is an anthology of short stories with state-of-the-art animation, unpredictable twists, and thought-provoking moments that deliver a unique and visceral viewing experience. As the title suggests, we'll be listing our top 10 darkest episodes from Love, Death, and Robots. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Pop Squad, Volume 2, Episode 3, directed by Jennifer Yu Nelson, and written by Philip Gelatt. Pop Squad is one of those episodes that leaves a deep scar on its viewers. Based on Paolo Bacigalupi's story of the same name, the plot opens on a future where humans have gained eternal youth through an advanced biotechnology. However, it came at a cost, and that was not having children at all. To preserve eternal life and avoid overpopulation, the state enforces child eradication. The episode begins with a police raid in the decaying depths of the city. Two detectives, Briggs and Pintle, along with two armored officers, forced entry into a filthy apartment where drawers served as cribs and cockroaches moved across untouched dishes. Inside there was a mother who begged before the officers while being taken away from her children. While leaving, she begged the enforcers to spare them and at least feed breakfast to the children. Finally, Briggs arrived and killed them. Soon it was revealed that to maintain the population, kids had to be eliminated at all costs, while the elite used a treatment called Reju to sustain immortality. Briggs and Pintle served as enforcers of the police team that kept the check on it. Although it was a regular job, Briggs seemed to be disturbed by it, questioning his true purpose. After the killings, he descended into the sterile sky towers to watch his lover Alice sing for the upper class. She joked about getting pregnant if they were not destined to live forever. Briggs said nothing. The weight of his actions began to consume him. During his next assignment, while a new child was taken away, he allowed the desperate father to raise a gun against him. He missed the shot while the rest of the officers shot him dead, but it left Briggs a deep mark. While in a collectible shop, he noticed a woman named Eve buying toys. He followed her into the woods and discovered she lived with her daughter in secret. Eve explained that after 218 years, her child gave her life new meaning. Briggs listened in silence as the child laughed and reached for his hat. When Eve lunged for his weapon, he didn't react. He simply walked away. Outside, Pintle waited. They shot each other. Pintle died first. Briggs, mortally wounded, felt rain on his skin. He looked to the sky, let go of his guilt, and collapsed. Bad Traveling, Volume 3, Episode 2. Next on the list we have Bad Traveling, adapted from the short story of the same name by Neil Asher. Directed by David Fincher and written by Andrew Kevin Walker, the episode is of complete horror and has a dark twist around it. The plot revolved around the dangers of ancient mariners traveling across alien seas for hunting jumbo sharks. Most of these ships were lost in the seas, and they were noted as bad traveling. With a brief idea, the scene shifted to a particular vessel crossing the sea in a wild storm. Amidst the harsh winds, a massive crab-like thanapod tore through a vessel, killing several sailors before retreating below deck. The rest of the surviving members were terrified, until Torin, the ship's second-in-command, took charge and proposed a tactical but horrific idea. He made everyone draw straws to decide who would confront the creature. Jarvan, the strongest and largest in the group, drew the shortest one, but threatened the others with his brute strength to send Torin instead. Everyone agreed out of fear, and Torin was sent to confront the deadly creature. Surprisingly, the thanapod spoke to him through a corpse, and demanded passage to a populated island. Torin made a deal with the creature, for which it puked out a key. Much to everyone's surprise, Torin returned. Without responding to any questions from the crew, he rushed to the topside and used the key to retrieve his gun from a case. Next, Torin was in charge of the vessel. He revealed his deal with the thanapod, and they agreed to comply. The only issue was that the creature had to be fed, and Jarvan proposed sacrificing an injured sailor. However, they turned against Jarvan and fed him to the beast. Torin discussed the scenario, and proposed the idea of not taking the creature to its proposed destination. It could kill thousands of inhabitants, and the best option was to leave the creature on a deserted island. However, Torin asked everyone to leave their vote secretly, following which he shot and killed two sailors who chose to hand the populated island over to the creature. They were soon fed to the thanapod. The rest of the teammates soon grew hostile to Torin, and planned on eliminating him at night. However, Torin outsmarted them and survived, stating that in the voting, everyone chose to feed the populated island to the thanapod. Torin killed everyone and fed them to the thanapod, who was then laying eggs and growing in numbers. Before reaching land, Torin confronted the thanapod one final time. He explained the purpose of their voyage was oil, not meat. Then he ignited the barrels, turning the ship into a floating fire trap. The thanapod and its offspring perished in the blaze. Torin escaped in a rowboat, leaving the wreck behind as he rowed toward Faden Island, the only survivor of a voyage defined by terror, betrayal, and brutal necessity. Jabaro, Volume 3, Episode 9. Jabaro has probably been one of the best episodes of Love, Death, and Robots. It received several awards for its innovative storytelling and visual artistry. Director and writer Alberto Mielgo won a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Individual Achievement in Animation for Jabaro. The story begins with a group of armored knights traveling on horseback through a vibrant forest. As they saw a clear lake surrounded by lush greenery, they stopped to rest. One of them was deaf, and when he saw golden coins from the lake bed, he began collecting them, mistakenly awakening a mysterious creature below the lake. Soon, a seductive creature, better known as a siren, emerged, unleashing her wild shriek. Soon, the knights went into a frenzy and began to stab one another and dance wildly under the influence of her voice. They were eventually drawn into the water, where they drowned beneath the weight of their armor. Only the deaf knight remained, leaving the siren puzzled. She followed the knight into the forest, and when he was sleeping, she approached and lay beside him. In the morning, the knight discovered the siren, and she escaped, with the knight chasing her to a waterfall. The two of them became intimate, and the siren felt a deep, meaningful connection. Unfortunately, the knight's desire turned into greed, and he attacked her, tearing the gold and gems from her body. Taking everything from her violently, the knight cast her broken form down the falls. However, this wasn't the end. A crimson wave surged through the river while the knight tried to escape from the forest. As he washed his face with it, he regained his hearing. Overwhelmed by the sensory overload, he ran blindly through the woods and collapsed near the lake. The siren, now restored and furious, returned from the depths. She looked upon her wounded body in despair, then screamed with immense fury. This time, the knight heard her voice, and it paralyzed him the way it did the other nights before. He soon staggered into the water and joined the countless corpses on the lake bed, a final victim of the very creature he had tried to exploit. Beyond the Aquila Rift, Volume 1, Episode 7. Directed by Leon Barrel, Dominique Boyden, Remy Kozira, and Maxime Luer. Beyond the Aquila Rift stood out as one of the most disturbing and tragic episodes of the entire season. The plot opens in space, where a cargo freighter, Blue Goose, was preparing to enter a surge point gate for a faster-than-light jump. As the jump initiated, Captain Tom and his crew, Susie and Ray, sealed themselves in their surge tanks, hoping to wake up at the end of the journey. However, this time it didn't turn out to be like their routine trip, as the cargo arrived at a remote repair station called Samlaki, in the Shedder sector, where Tom was greeted by Greta, a woman he once knew. He explained that there was a routing error in the ship's navigation systems, and that Archangel Dispatch must have had a glitch in their syntax launch patterns. Susie also woke up, but as she stumbled, Tom placed her back in her pod. Greta then led Tom through the station and into a bar, where she rekindled their past intimacy. Later that night, they had sex, but Tom's doubts grew as subtle inconsistencies emerged. Greta finally admitted they were not in the Shedder system, but far beyond. She added that the routing error had transported them to a place 150,000 light years from Earth. Still in disbelief, Tom woke up Susie from her tank. Sensing something alarming, Susie charged at Greta. She scratched her neck with a statue, following which Greta responded by tranquilizing her. Soon the scratch on her neck vanished, and Tom's suspicions grew further. Later, Tom pressured Greta to confess the truth. She insisted on not doing so, and going back to Earth wouldn't make sense, as months here were centuries on Earth. The true form of Salmaki Station was a massive alien hive constructed from wrecked ships that had fallen into the same routing trap. The alien creatures used the simulation to keep his mind stable, while his body remained trapped. When Greta stopped the simulation, Tom found himself in a gruesome reality, where his body was skeletal, barely alive, with matted hair and sunken skin. As Tom looked around in horror, he heard Greta's voice and turned to see her true form. She was a massive spider-like alien, with humanoid features and many eyes, slowly crawling toward him. Unable to withstand the trauma, Tom screamed as his mind broke. Greta, as she had done before, returned him to the simulation and erased his memories. The final scenes showed Tom awakening once again inside the simulation, where Greta greeted him warmly. The episode ended with a zoom out from the illusory Samlaki Station to reveal the grotesque truth. The episode was based on a short story by Alastair Reynolds, and it stood out not just for its photorealistic animation and emotional weight, but for the profound horror it delivered. Golgatha, Volume 4, Episode 6. Next on the list of dark episodes is Golgatha from the last season. It's an adaptation of the British author Dave Hutchinson's short story of the same name. The episode was directed by Tim Miller, and it showcased a dark, apocalyptic ending for the planet. It opens on a future where humanity has managed to establish contact with alien species known as the Lupo. Soon, these alien species arrive. The Lupo were a religious alien race. Upon arrival, they refused to speak with presidents, scientists, or generals, but only Father Donald Maguire vampire, popularly known for once rescuing a dolphin during an oil spill. The dolphin was given a name, Blackfin, and for the Lupos, it was their god. Owing to the newspaper and media, there was news of a return of Blackfin, and the Lupos wanted to meet it. Finally, on the day of the meeting, Donnell arrived at the designated meeting point. It was a deserted Irish beach, now taken over by military forces, global press, and the watchful eye of his skeptical superior, Bishop Cleary. The military controlled the crowd while Donnell went ahead towards the shore, where the Lupo envoy emerged from the fog. Soon, a towering being clad in metal and flesh, its movements slow and alien, crept out of the pod. Donnell walked beside it, recounting the story of Blackfin's return from death. The Lupo listened in solemn silence, taking Donnell's words at face value. Suddenly, the Lupos issued a shrill call across the sea. Soon a dolphin was seen, and the Lupo bowed to their messiah. Blackfin spoke in its voice, which only the interpreter could understand. Blackfin spoke of the legacy of cruelty against life itself that the humans have been conducting. The dolphin mentioned about poisoned seas, slaughtered whales, and destruction of ecosystems. Donnell stood in silence while the Lupo dived into the water, announcing that Judgment Day had come. In a moment, the sky tore open with alien warships that unleashed a barrage of attacks. Sucker of Souls, Volume 1, Episode 5. Sucker of Souls is one of those episodes of the series that highlighted overwhelming gore and bloodshed. Based on a short story by Kristen Cross, the episode has been written by Philip Gelatt and directed by Owen Sullivan. Archaeologist Dr. Wehunt, along with the intern Simon and mercenary Flynn, had just discovered cryptic carvings inside a shadowy tomb. However, when Simon was reading it, he reawakened a slumbering corpse, Dracula himself. Simon was the first to die, while Flynn escaped with Wehunt and called for help. The gigantic monstrous and invulnerable creature chased them down, and when he was just about to eat Flynn, a cat appeared, strolling, and the creature retreated out of fear. When they rejoined with the rest of the mercenary team, Wehunt explained the vampire's hatred of cats, a superstition that gave them a moment's reprieve. Realizing escape was their only chance, the team fled into a deeper chamber and prepared an ambush. When Dracula returned and charged again, they managed to hold him back with intense firepower, until the creature fell into their trap, which was a C4 explosive attached to the exit. The explosion engulfed the monster, and the group pushed forward into what they believed was a way out. Unfortunately, instead of freedom, they found rows of ancient cells where each one had a vampire. As the flare lit up the gigantic room, the creatures woke up one by one. Soon there was darkness, gunshots, and agonizing screams. Sunny's Edge, Volume 1, Episode 1. Next on the list, we have the first episode of Season 1, Sunny's Edge. Directed by Dave Wilson, the story has the most unexpected twists of all time. The plot opens in a grim future, where underground death matches captivate the broken cities of a dystopian world. These fights were anything but ordinary, as it was a battle between genetically engineered beasts that battled in psychic sync with their human controllers. In this arena, there was the unmatched and undefeated champion, Sunny. She was a young woman, hardened by traumatic events in her past. Sunny's reputation in the matches drew the attention of Dicko, a rich and sadistic club owner. He tried to bribe her to lose the next match, to which she refused, and later her beast once again secured her place at the top, proving why no one had bested her in the ring. Sunny was later approached by Jennifer, Dicko's alluring mistress, who seduced her with timid and submissive gestures. However, it was later revealed that Jennifer too was working under Dicko's instructions when she attacked Sunny. A blade shot from her palm, piercing through Sunny's skull and dropping her to the ground. Dicko stepped in, believing the execution complete, while Jennifer crushed Sunny's skull underfoot to be sure. While Dicko was gloating at his success, Sunny's creature emerged from behind. Sunny was never in her body, and her consciousness was inside the beast the whole time. As the episode ended, Dicko could be seen in the creature's grasp, while Sunny's voice echoed with quiet menace, asking Dicko if he was scared now. The story was based on a story by Peter F. Hamilton, and it easily grabbed the requisite attention for the entire season. In Vaulted Halls Entombed, Volume 3, Episode 8. Directed by Jeremy Chun and based on Alan Baxter's short story, In Vaulted Halls Entombed undoubtedly stands out as one of the darkest episodes of Love, Death, and Robots. The plot opens in the middle of the Afghanistan mountains, where a special forces unit has been tasked with a hostage rescue mission. As they tracked insurgents into a cavernous tunnel system, the soldiers discovered skeletal remains, including the body of the hostage they were sent to save. The presence of the insurgents' corpses, whom they had seen alive moments before, raised unsettling questions. Soon they heard gunshots, and the soldiers got on the alert. As they proceeded, a spider-like creature descended onto one of the soldiers, Beaumont. Soon, a large swarm of similar creatures attacked them, causing them to suffer heavy casualties as the creatures devoured their flesh. They were forced to retreat deeper into the cave with gigantic stairs, where they were again attacked by a swarm of insect-like creatures. The remaining duo, Coulthard and Harper, planned on following a route that seemed to take them out and began walking. Soon, a mysterious voice was heard. Harper insisted on walking straight, but Coulthard deviated, did. As they continued on, they found a vast chamber housing an ancient, imprisoned entity, seemingly an eldritch god. The entity communicated with them telepathically, which induced horrifying visions of global destruction. Coulthard fell under its influence, compelled to destroy the chains that restrained the creature. But Harper intervened. In the ensuing struggle, Coulthard tried to kill Harper with a knife, but she shot him dead. The eldritch god continued goading Harper. In the end, we can see her emerging from the cave, with her eyes gouged out and ears cut off. It explained that she had destroyed her vision and hearing so as not to be influenced by the vicious entity. Spider Rose, Volume 4, Episode 3. Spider Rose from the recent season definitely deserves its place in the list of dark episodes. It was based on a short story by Bruce Sterling and directed by Jennifer Yu Nelson. The scene opens in cold, vast space, within the asteroid rings of Uranus, the home of Lydia Martinez, better known as Spider Rose. She was a cyborg-enhanced mechanist, seeking vengeance over the Shaper assassin Jade, who killed her crew and her husband. Ever since this haunting event, Lydia isolated herself, waiting for the right moment to exact her revenge. Previously, she had killed Jade on many occasions, but all of them were his clones. Desperate for vengeance, Lydia sought a weapon of mass destruction from alien investors, offering a priceless jewel in exchange. However, they feared her ways and declined the immediate sanction for the weapon. They instead presented her with a particular creature that absorbed DNA from the organisms it consumed through cocooning. Initially, Lydia was skeptical, but she later accepted the creature as a pet. The creature was extremely cute and playful, which made it easy for her to bond. She called her Nosy, and they had a great time together. Moreover, it gave Lydia an escape from her never-ending trauma and focus. However, her peace was short-lived as Jade re-emerged, launching an attack with his clones. Utilizing her intimate knowledge of her habitat and aided by Nosy, Lydia systematically eliminated the clones, culminating in a confrontation with Jade Prime. In a fierce battle, Spider Rose overcame her adversary and killed him. She got the revenge she'd been yearning for, but at the cost of her station being destroyed. There wasn't much food or oxygen left, but she was happy with her beloved Nosy in her arms. Suddenly, the creature realized there was no food. It grew aggressive and devoured Lydia. In the next scene, the investor could be seen at the station retrieving Nosy, who, after cocooning, had evolved into something different. The Witness, Volume 1, Episode 3. Last but not least, we have The Witness from Season 1, written and directed by Alberto Mielgo. The episode represents a haunting exploration of perception and reality, encapsulated within a time loop where roles of victims and perpetrator perpetually interchange. The plot opens in a surreal cyberpunk city, where a young woman stands in her apartment, applying lipstick. A muffled argument across the street caught her attention, and she looks through her window. She watched a man murder a woman who appeared to be her exact double. She tried to quietly close her window, but it squeaked, alerting the killer to her presence. As their eyes met, the man stared in shock, not just because he had been caught, but because the person watching looked identical to the one he had just killed. Panicked, the woman hastily grabbed her belongings and ran into the streets. She got into a taxi and tried to call the police, but stumbled when asked for specific details. Confused, the lady headed to her workplace, a bizarre fetish cabaret, while the man followed in another taxi, determined to confront her. At the club, her coworker rushed her inside and helped her prepare for the stage. Masked and dressed in a loose silk gown, she performed a seductive routine before a crowd of patrons. The man entered the club, coaxed inside by her coworker's taunts. He watched the woman dance, surrounded by leering figures in leather. As she moved, she recognized him in the crowd and immediately ran backstage. She rushed into her boss Vladimir's room, where he lay drugged and unconscious, surrounded by submissive figures. She rifled through his drawers until she found a handgun and concealed it in her purse. As she exited the room, the man caught up with her. She hurled her clothes at him to buy a moment of escape and ran back into the city. He followed her through the twisted streets, calling after her, asking for a chance to explain. She ignored him and ducked into an apartment building. She found an unlocked unit and locked herself inside. Moments later, the man reached the door and calmly unlocked it with his own keys. She had unknowingly taken shelter in his home. When they faced each other, she took out her gun while the man begged for a chance to speak. As a brief struggle erupted, the gun was fired, leaving the man dead while the woman stood bloodied, breathing heavily. However, as she turned her gaze out the window, she saw something impossible. Across the street, she watched herself standing in an apartment window, witnessing the scene she had just lived through. The cycle had begun again. Marvelous verdict. So we finally come to the end of our video, and we hope you've liked our content. Love, Death, and Robots so far hasn't failed us, and we can continue to expect crazy, mind-blowing episodes from them. There's a very unique way in which the storytelling is executed in these episodes, for which the visual experience is unmatchable. Thank you for watching the video till the end. Let us know about your darkest episode in the TV show in the comments section, and stay tuned for the next Marvelous video. If you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.